Oh, jeez. Welcome back to Truth Quest. My name is Aaron Moriarity. I will be your host, and we're going to go on a quest for truth together. And today, friends, we have a very special guest, the timeless voyager himself, Bruce Stephen Holmes. Bruce, welcome to the Truth Quest.
Thanks. Great to be here, Aaron.
Well, it's great to have you. And some of our listeners will remember you because you've called in a few times, but now we finally have you as an official guest. And I couldn't be happier because you are like a one-man show. You've got your own paranormal books that you publish. You've got your Timeless Voyager program that you started years ago and you're restarting now. So I'm just tickled pink to have you here. And yeah, for those who don't know Bruce Holmes, he's been in this paranormal thing for quite a long time. And why don't I just turn it over to you and let you talk about those early days and what you're up to now.
Well, thank you, Aaron. The early days. I started Timeless Voyager Radio in the fall of 1989. The reason I say the fall is because aside from the season, I wanted to have a radio program, and I tried pitching it to different radio stations, and no one would let me on the air.
Oh, really?
So I found KCSB, which is the University of Santa Barbara, here in Santa Barbara. And all I had to do was go over there and fill out some paperwork and take a little FCC test.
Mhm.
And I don't remember much about it because it was so long ago. But the bottom line is they had a 9 a.m. opening because students can't get up at 9 o'clock. So 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I thought to myself, I'm a musician. I don't even remember. I never remember being conscious at 9 a.m. But I said, hey, this is important to me. So what day? And they said Monday. And I said, Monday? That's the day I just sleep. All right. So anyway, so I said, hey, yeah, I was really dedicated. So I took the slot, and it wasn't the slot I wanted because I wanted to have a late night slot.
Hmm.
But there was nothing available for me. All of the late night kids wanted it, and that's the way it was. So I went in, and the woman who was in charge of the radio thing, I basically was the same age as her. So I mean, we were like adults around a bunch of kids. And she said, well, tell me a little bit about your show. I thought to myself, oh, here it goes. If I tell her about the show, I'll be off the air. So I explained it, and I did the best I could to try to like keep it as low profile as possible. And when I got done, crickets. I mean, it was scary. And my stomach was like growling because I thought to myself, oh, here it goes. This is the end. I'm not going to do it. So she looked at me and she said, are you sure you want to be on a college station? And I said, of course, that's why I'm here, which was just partially the truth. The other reason I was there was because no one else would let me in their office after I made my pitch. So I said, yeah. And she said, well, is there any profanity or anything like that? And I said, no, I'm just, I interview. And then I had to like be careful what I said. But I'm going, and I thought to myself, I have to tell her something because otherwise it'll be too surprising.
Mhm.
So I said, okay, here's what this, and then I did my pitch. I'm not going to waste people the time to tell you the pitch, but basically my pitch was, it's in those days we call it new age paranormal show. And she said, oh, what kind of people are you going to have on there? And I said, well, I do have a tape, which I did have. I had actually had a number of reels of shows that I had done 1 hour slots, and they were already done. I just didn't, I did them in my recording studio. And so I said, well, how about if I have a meeting with you and I'll bring you the tapes? And she said, oh, that won't be necessary. I don't know what day of the week it was. She said, are you ready to start on Monday? So whatever day it was, I said, well, of course I'm ready to start. So she said, fine. She said, so here's the key, key to the studio. You know, this is this thing you have to do. I had passed the FCC exam, and there was this thing that they did. I don't know if they do it anymore. And this was analog now. This wasn't digital. This was an analog studio. I said, oh, by the way, I said, I'd like to do telephone interviews. Do you have that availability? And she said, oh, no, we've never done that. And I said, you've never done a telephone interview? I said, it's not that hard. She said, well, if you come into the studio. So I went in. This was the first time I saw the studio now. I had visions of what the studio was going to look like because I had my own studio, and it was very sophisticated and being nice compared to what they had. They still had potentiometers, you know, that you turn, not sliders or anything like that for all of the little board they had. The little board was for like maybe 2 or 3 microphones at the most. So I looked at it and, you know, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I made a big mistake here. I should have thought this out a little better. But I went on, I said, okay, great. So she said, okay, well, you should be at home here. And of course, I was at home there. I knew how it worked. I just hadn't ever used one of those. And then they had all of these, this is like really old school. They had what are called carts. Remember the 8-track cart?
8-track cart.
Yeah.
Oh, you put it in there and then
Yeah, before there were 8-track carts for consumers, apparently in these radio stations, they had carts that were the same thing, except they were stereo. They weren't 8 tracks.
Oh, wow.
They were just stereo tape.
Okay.
So when you ran some kind of a show or an ad or whatever you did, you would have the cart and you would plug it in, and then it would have a start switch, which was a red button.
Okay.
Giving everybody, see, we didn't know we were going to talk about this one. So let me know if this gets silly and too technical. So I had all of this stuff that was analog in front of me, and it was like, you know, 8:45, and I couldn't actually be in the seat because there was another DJ there, some kid that was doing a morning show, usually I would be like, actually, I remember the show very well. I don't remember the name of it, but they played only new college music.
Mm.
Now, as a musician, I found this to be fantastic because it gave me something that I didn't even know existed because I never listened to the college station. And that was every new act that was out there in those days was pitching to only college stations because the college stations were the only ones that would play the new material.
Wow.
So I had a plethora of new material that I could take home all the time and listen to. Anyway, so the kid got done doing his show. It was basically, if you think about 1989, it was just the end of punk, basically, and the beginning of rap. I mean, for college stations, they were a little bit ahead of everybody else. Okay, then I had my, you know, the thing that I run all the time, that you know, Timeless Voyager Radio thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it went from like to bing, you know, Timeless Voyager Radio. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to have to work on that one because it's too much. It's too much of a change. Nobody, other people are going to like tune it out. So then, of course, the next week I had a whole different piece that I wrote and recorded in the studio. So to come back to the question here was, how did it all happen? On that show, I decided that I was going to run my cassette tape because it was a radio interview. I mean, an interview done with somebody who was actually had been in my studio, and it was done. And there were so many things that I needed to be able to do. I felt like I just couldn't do an interview and all the other things.
Right.
So I put it in the tape machine and I pushed the button and nothing happened.
Oh no.
I don't know what happened. I thought the guy was using the tape recorder, and I looked around and he was standing there looking at me, and he opened the door and he goes, "No, use number 2. Number 1 doesn't work."
Oh no.
So I quick put it into number 2, clicked it, pushed play, and bang, there was the show.
Wow.
And so then I had my mic on mute, and he was showing me all the different things that I needed to do. There were like time slots that I had to like fulfill, FCC things that had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got myself all set up, and then I would like pause the cassette tape, and then I would hit one of the buttons with the cart and everything. And by the time I got to the end of the first show, I knew the whole thing really well, and I felt very comfortable about it. So that was pretty much maybe not the kind of beginning you expected, but that was the real beginning of Timeless Voyager Radio.
Wow.
Now, I will tell you the result of the first show. I did not know what to expect because it was a college station, and all I knew about the station was that they had the biggest linear mileage of any station there, except for this other one that was like 50,000 watts.
Wow.
And this one, for some reason, they only had 5,000 watts. But because they were out on a peninsula in Santa Barbara,
Could go farther.
I had the sweep of there were no mountains, there was nothing. So it could be picked up as far south as Deep Ventura, which is, like 45 miles to the south.
Mm-hmm.
North, it went all the way up into Santa Maria, which is like 60 miles. From Santa Maria, it went into the valley. And I mean, it was crazy the amount of coverage I was getting. Now, what I didn't think about, I knew about it, but I didn't think about it, was I was in drive time. Monday morning, 9 a.m. drive time.
All right. Perfect.
So I didn't know what to expect. I went home, put together my next show, and I thought, okay, it's time to do a live show, and I'll do call-ins. So I called up Elizabeth and I said, "Have you ever done call-ins?" And she said, "Oh no, we can't do that. We might have that done, in a couple of months." And she said, "Really, nobody wants to do it. Nobody knows how to work it." And I said, "Well, look, I'll go. Do you need somebody to be on the committee?" And she said, "Well, yeah, of course. Are you volunteering?" I said, "Absolutely." So fortunately, the committee met that night. So I went to the meeting, and by the end of the meeting, I had gotten it to the point where it was all going to be available and ready to use the following Monday,
Wow.
because everybody was scared of it. Nobody cared about it because they didn't have call-ins. I was the only one who cared. I wanted to have call-ins. So I went there. I rehearsed it a couple times. I think on Sunday, I forget when I did it, and I had the thing nailed. And so Monday morning, I had my first guest. Now I don't know who my first guest was, because I had too many shows that have been, like I told you, it's about 350 shows.
Wow.
But what I do know is that it came without a hitch. And what was incredible about it was I was getting phone calls. Now, remember, this is like 1989. So there weren't a lot of people that had cell phones in their cars, but there were quite a few. And I was getting cell phone calls from people that were on the road. And I was thinking to myself, this is unbelievable. This is cool. And the guest was, answering questions and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, wow, I'm really like doing this. And then I got a call from the newspaper,
Oh,
the Santa Barbara, I think it was called the Sun or something like that. It was a small paper. Oh, this is fantastic. This is so strange. Can we interview you? I said, of course, I'm happy to go. So I did the interview, and then the story was in the Santa Barbara Sun. Then oh, that's so silly. Then the college newspaper picked it up. I would have thought it would have been the other way around. The
right.
college paper picked it up. Then the news press picked it up, which is the big newspaper in Santa Barbara County.
Wow.
By about maybe 6 weeks, I was basically all over the place. I wasn't like in billboards or anything like that, but it was like the talk of the area, and it was working. And like I said, it was working so well that I was freaking out because I thought to myself, this is unbelievable. I did not expect this. I wanted to like learn what I needed to learn and then pitch the idea to a radio station that would pick me up. Okay, so fast forward about a year, and I felt like, I had about 50 shows under my hat, so to speak. And I thought to myself, okay, now's my time. I'll go out there and I'll start pitching the show. It was worse than it had been before. Nobody was interested. Everybody said it'll never work. It's one thing on a college station, but this is not going to work.
Mhm.
And of course, I would point to Art Bell, and people would say, well, Art Bell's on at midnight. You can do anything you want at midnight, but this isn't going to work at 9 a.m. And I said, well, listen, I'll change. I'll go to a midnight show and all that. No, we're just not interested. So I did that again. I continued on KCSB. So now I was into 1990, which a lot of those shows that we can talk about, they're shows that were on KCSB in the beginning, and there's probably about, I don't know, 50 of them.
Okay.
Finally, what I decided to do was, the guy said, have you thought of shortwave radio? And I thought to myself, this is silly. I mean, I'm be on shortwave radio. I mean, I didn't take it seriously. I said, well, show me your analytics. I'd be interested in finding out about it. Well, I was blown away. I had no idea how many people listen to shortwave radio, and I didn't know how many shows like this show that I was doing were on shortwave radio.
Wow.
I was completely blown away. I thought to myself, okay, what's the deal? Well, the guy said this was I think it was WWCR. It was Christian radio. But they had a hands-off policy for their accounts. So you paid to have a certain amount of bandwidth for an hour or whatever you wanted,
Mhm.
and then do it once a week. And I don't remember how I hooked up to them. Oh, I remember. Okay, what I did was I sent them tapes, and they played them as is on shortwave.
Hmm.
And because I ran this blurb at the end all the time, if you want to have a free catalog or all this kind of stuff, just write to such and such, or I had a toll-free number in those days, and get a free catalog. And what happened was, I was getting 20, 30 calls a night or day or whatever it is. I was having trouble keeping I had to get a voicemail because it was interfering with my own personal
Yeah.
machine that we had machines in those days.
Right.
And I had come across this company that had voicemails. I didn't even know what it was because it was so new. So in 1990, I had, multiple phone numbers and all this stuff. Do you want me to keep going on this story, or?
Sure.
Here, I'll tell you what, I'll cut to this part.
Okay.
So I got onto shortwave, and it was really, really interesting. It was good. I was getting worldwide attention.
Wow.
Because it was shortwave. So
Wow.
yeah. And I thought to myself, I don't know who these people are, but I'm glad they're available. Um, so I found an uplink in Iowa. It was in I forget the name of the town. It was one of the universities. They had an uplink to the satellite, and it was an NPR uplink. And I can't remember exactly how I used it, but I do remember that they began running the show, but they were running the show for free. I didn't have to pay them.
Hmm.
Or I was sending tapes out to them. Then I got contacted by a 50,000 watt station in Canada, and I think it was Toronto. Yes, it was Toronto, CJEZ. And they said, how much would you charge? This is so great. How much would you charge to send us a 1 hour DAT tape, digital audio tape in those days? And I had a digital audio tape machine because I used it for music.
Mm-hmm.
And I said off the top of my head, well, how does $25 sound? And he said, that's all? And I said, yeah. I said, how many hours do you want? And he said, well, how about 2 hours? And he said, no, make that 4 hours a week. So I thought to myself, well, great. Okay. So I sent 4 DAT tapes to them. And I thought to myself, yeah, I'll be lucky if I ever get paid. I mean, literally 2 days, the check came. And I went, all right, this is great. And they also funneled all the listenership and everything to me. I mean, it was just, and here's what happened. It was a 50,000 watt station in Toronto. So where do you think it showed? Detroit, Chicago, right, down in Ohio, Cincinnati, parts of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh. I mean, it was like, and I was getting New York. It was like I had, my dream was coming true. But check that. This is the best part. They put me in 9 a.m.
Same time.
on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. So I was 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on both days.
Okay.
And that was the real beginning
Wow.
of Timeless Voyager Radio. And then it just kind of like kept going. I don't want to bore people with the story. It's just an interesting way to look at how you can, and I don't want to say how I made something happen, but how something happened. And I cooperated. You know where I am on manifesting.
Yeah.
If you see an opportunity, you have a choice. You always have a choice. You can think that it's nothing, which, if you remember back in the beginning of the story,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take the idea of the college station seriously, but
Right.
it was the only one there. So it was either do your show on the college station or don't do your show.
Right.
So I did my show on the college station and it began to happen. And so every time an opportunity showed itself, I would be like on top of it right away. There were lots of other things. I'm not going to get into how I got it on. I finally ended up with about 250 radio programs, picking it up off satellite. I did that with a company called Clearwater, or Clear. No, it wasn't.
Clearview.
They were in Clearwater, Florida. IBN.
Okay.
IBN stood for something business network. I don't know what the I stood for. And they started by saying to me, I'll make this quick. They started by saying to me, oh yeah, you can have 40 uplinks, or 40 stations will pick your uplink. And it'll cost you, and I forget what it was. It was something like maybe $125 a month. It was, which was not, it wasn't cheap. And but it was a regular radio clock where I got bartered. I don't know if you know the term barter, but I would get to have time. So I would get like 2 minutes of time before the news, 2 minutes of time after the news. This was what I got out of my payment. 3 minutes of time at 15, 3 minutes of time at the halfway mark, and 3 minutes of time at 45. So I would have, I don't know what that added up to, but probably 9, 10, 11, 12, probably 13 or 14 minutes of time
Mhm.
on 40 stations. In other words, 40 stations would pick up the ads that I ran.
Wow.
I began to sell my own advertising, and I could sell it rather cheap. Now, the guy who was the president of the network didn't think much of the show, but he said, "Hey, Bruce," and I mean, it's like, like, so you want to be a star, that kind of thing, right? He says, if you get 70 stations to pick up your show, no charge.
Hmm.
So here's what I did. Every day I had a fax machine. I had a regular fax thing that I wrote about Timeless Voyager. I had the book. There was a book that was like this thick
Of all the
of
state,
every radio station in the United States and Canada.
their fax numbers.
Yep. And every day I would send out 100 faxes to every station. I mean, it's just that it was an endless number of stations because the book was so thick.
Right.
I had 70 affiliates in 2 months.
Good for you.
And then it just like went up to, like I said, about 250 affiliates. So I think it's an interesting story, especially for somebody who wants to do something, whatever it is.
It's a great story.
I'm trying to say, I don't guarantee anything because you can't control consequences,
Mhm.
but at least you can make consequences occur if
Mhm.
you're willing to do the work. And believe me, that was a lot of work
Mhm.
because I was still doing my gigs. I was still doing 6, 7 nights a week,
Wow.
playing, and I was still doing, the weddings and all that stuff. And I was
Wow.
teaching lessons. I mean, I was really like on a tear.
Wow.
But I believed so much in this thing. So bottom line is, by 94, I made a mistake. I will tell the story on the air. Remember we talked about this mistake?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Here's what happened. I was really feeling my oats. And I think this is 94. Okay, I might have the date wrong, and anybody who's on the chat line can probably check it out and figure out. This was during Waco.
Mhm.
A woman called me up on the phone. I won't use names. I'll just say, and she was very well placed as one of the people who supported Waco. She supported the group, and she was very well known. She was an attorney, and she had spent a lot of money. She had backers, people that were there trying to protect the group in Waco.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm getting these feeds. I did not ask her how she was getting the feeds because I was naive. I had these feeds that I'm picking up. And she said, I'm going to use them as evidence that the United States government does not belong in this siege that they're starting to create. She was right there. She knew that they were planning it. They already had it. They were going to shut it down. They had all of these stories about what was going on in Waco. And I thought it was true. I did not know whether it was true or not true, but I thought it was. And she said, I need someone who would be willing to run some of these feeds so that I can support what I'm talking about. And she said, I can't pay you, but she said, I'm sure this will put you on the map.
Uh-oh.
Too bad I didn't understand what she meant by that.
Famous last words.
So I said, okay, I mean, no problem. I was going to use her first name, but I'm not. So she sent me the feeds, and I listened to them, and I thought to myself, whoa, this is incredible. I mean, this is unbelievable, some of the stuff I'm hearing, because it was apparently, well, I mean, it turned out to be FBI feeds. And I didn't really get it, but I did get it. Of course I got it. I mean, I looked at it as an opportunity, right? It was like, oh, this is going to like break me into the to the mainstream, you know. And the only other guy that was head to head with me was Art Bell at the time, and he had a couple of people locked up. He had Bill Cooper and people I would have liked to have had, but they were with him, and I, you know, people get territorial about their stuff.
Oh, really?
Why, you know, he wasn't really sharing. So, and I didn't have the notoriety that Art Bell had. I didn't have as many affiliates. I didn't have the backing he had. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I was still small and I wanted to be big. So I began running the feeds, and I was doing a television interview at a station. And I finished the interview and I came out to my truck, and I unlocked the door and I started to get in, and two guys came out of nowhere. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you they were dressed in black.
Okay, I believe it.
And I actually laughed because I basically, I don't know what I said exactly, but I said something like, "You're kidding me, right?" Something like that. And they both of them, you know, were stern. I mean, it was almost like a Dan Aykroyd imitation of guys in black. I don't know.
Wow.
So the one guy said to me, he said, are you Bruce Stephen Holmes? And he says, "You do Timeless Voyager radio?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay." He says, "We want you to stop running those feeds from," and then he mentioned the name of the woman. So I looked at him and I looked at the other guy. I said, "Well, who are you? Who are you guys? You don't need to know anything about who we are or what we know. Just stop doing it." And then they turned around and they left. And I stood there, and you know, the hair was standing on my back. Because I'm thinking to myself, is this a joke? Was this real? What the heck just happened? So I came home and I thought about it. So I told my wife, and she said, "Oh," she says, "I don't know. It sounds like somebody's pranking you, but I don't know." I said, "I don't think it's a prank. It was too ridiculous." I said, "If you'd been there, I don't think you would have." So I thought to myself, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I'm not going to stop that. Well, so I thought to myself, nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm Bruce Stephen Holmes. Timeless Voyager radio, you know, nothing. But in those days, I thought it was something. So I ran the feed.
Uh-oh.
Next day, I get a call, and it's a click, hang up. And I go, whatever. So I go my merry way. She sends me a new set of feeds, and I get ready to do my upload, and I call the station because I call, and then the guy says, "Oh, Bruce, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, we'll let you know as soon as we're ready. We'll do the upload." So I call the station, not the station. I call the uplink facility. Now we're talking about a major facility in Clearwater, Florida. They had hundreds of accounts, people like me, and thousands of stations. I only had 225 or whatever it was, 250. So he says to me, no, nobody answers. So I'm thinking to myself, that's impossible. How can they not answer the phone? So all day long, I'm calling, and all day long, I'm getting that. And then finally, at about maybe 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I get that thing that says, the number is no longer working. And I thought to myself, what? The number is no longer working? What is that about? What could possibly have happened? And I'm thinking to myself, everything I'm thinking, but I'm never thinking about, guess, I'm never thinking about me. I'm thinking about them. Like, what did they do? They didn't pay their bills. They didn't, you know what I mean? What happened? You know, like, what happened to these guys? And I'm getting mad, you know, and all this stuff. I read an article, a tiny little article. I don't even know how I saw it, in probably the LA Times. And it was about IBN. And I went, IBN? And I look at it and it says IBN blah 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 was shut down by the FCC for something. Didn't say anything about me, but just like, so I forget what it was, something like I don't remember what it was. It was some technical thing having to do with legalities. I couldn't even repeat it if I wanted to, until further notice. And I went, what? I had no idea what happened. Then I get a call from the attorney, the woman. Oh, she said, did you hear what happened? And I said, no, what happened? She said, oh, the FBI pulled your show off the network. And they I guess put up a little bit of an argument. And so they shut the network down, the uplink down. And I said, are you sure? I said, you mean this has to do with me? He said, that's what I think. I don't know for sure. She said, that's what I believe, because right now we're getting out of town because the siege is going to begin. That was the last I heard from her. That was the last I heard. And then the guy who was the network president, Steve was his name. His phone actually rang. And and he said, hello, this is Steve. I said, hi, Steve, it's Bruce Stephen Holmes. Click. He wouldn't talk to me, never talk to me again. So I always tell people that was the day the Timeless Voyager radio went from 250 affiliates to 0. And Art Bell went from 250 affiliates to 500.
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
And that was basically the end of Timeless Voyager radio. And it was such a shock and such a disheartening thing to me that I basically said, okay, you know what? It's a beautiful example of me not listening to someone who told me something and not taking seriously the powers that are out there. Mm-hmm. There's tremendous power. Now, you know, for people who are not old enough to, let's say, know about what that is about, they look at the internet and they look at YouTube and all of these things that are available. But behind the scenes, anybody's show can be pulled anytime without explanation. As you well know, you probably have friends who have had their shows pulled.
Oh, yeah.
And you can talk about it.
Thousands of them.
You can talk about it, and you can tell everybody the stories about it, like I'm telling the story. Mm-hmm. And they'll never be able to regain whatever it was you had, because that thing became like almost like a scarlet letter for me. Like I would say, yeah, I have a radio program, blah, 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 blah. What's the name of the program? Timeless Voyager Radio. Oh, you're the guy.
Oh, no. Ruined it for all of us.
You're the guy, yeah. So anyway, then IBN went back up about maybe 3 weeks later, wouldn't talk to me. They had an interesting story about what supposedly happened. But from what I gathered, that was a cover story. It wasn't really what happened. What really happened was what I did. And so that's why there was the end of Timeless Voyager. And then I just thought to myself, I'm going to cool it for a while. So from 90, I think it was 90, it was like, if I was smart, I would just go up to I'm right up here anyway.
Well, what I do is I just say back before the turn of the century, then you're covered. Okay.
I'm actually just going to put in Waco.
So now, what was the gist of these feeds? I mean, what were you hearing? I mean, obviously it was damaging to the government's fake story when they went in and killed all those people.
You know, I would be making something up right now because, frankly, I didn't really listen a lot to the feeds when I was playing. I'm just being, straight with you. I mean, I was so
Tossed
full
a cigarette in a puddle of gas and walked in.
I was so full. My ego was so big. I was so full of myself.
Wow.
I felt that I was so untouchable that I didn't even really care whether it was good or bad or right or wrong or anything. I was just doing it because it looked like a way for me to get a lot of notoriety. April 19th was the end of the siege in '93. So I was close. I was off by a year. Um,
Wow.
David Koresh. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Tragic.
yeah. I mean, it was just
It burned.
no, like I said. I mean, I'm not going to make anything up. It has its own story. So what did I learn? I learned that you have to be careful and balanced when you get into media
Mm-hmm.
because and I was small. I was nothing. And I filled myself up with such, and I was,
Well, wait a minute, 250 channels. That's not nothing.
well, let me say it this way, and I'm not, I know you, and I always love you because you like to protect me, but I want to say this. There's, there are, there's basically three markets in radio, or at least this is the way it used to be. There was what are called the top 100, then there would be the top 75, and then finally, the top 100, the top 75, the top 50, and the top 25. And so those three categories allow you to be let me explain. They have to do with your population or your demographics.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, two, and three are basically or usually New York, LA, and Chicago, or New York, Chicago, LA. Those three guys basically are the top three. So if you're in the top 25 and you have those three,
Mm-hmm.
that's all you need to be the biggest thing around.
Wow.
That's why I want to kind of like cool it. I don't want you to think just because I had 250, I had 250 in the top 75.
Wow. That's awesome.
But still wasn't like up the other category.
Well,
So I just want to say, I mean, I'm being real. I like to be real because you know what? I learned a long time ago that if you're not, someone will pick it up and it'll come back to you. It'll be worse than it was before you did it. So
well,
I like to keep it real.
it's a really interesting story, and it just shows if you really believe in something, you can make something happen, even when you don't even have any idea how to do it, like you did, step by step.
Yep.
Now, at around the same time, like 91, 92, I was just starting to do cable access. And you can see some of those in my archives, but yeah, it was all analog, and the dials,
Yep.
for the editing, and it was and what we did cable access.
Were you on 2-inch tape or 1-inch tape?
We were on SVHS.
Okay, so you had already graduated. You were already in the third generation. So there was
We went
pneumatic.
from VHS to SVHS, so we were in between there, and we had an Amiga that we worked with at the little
Oh, that
studio,
was pretty sophisticated.
and it was just for basic graphics, but we did quite a bit with it. We did a show called XTV, Extreme Television, Minnesota's only music video showcase, and we went to record companies and we got videos that they can't get on MTV or VH1 because they're just little,
Racing.
you know, and
Not like they are now.
we had Matt Kalina was our VJ, because he was the guy who worked there at the cable access place, but he was a cool young guy. And so me and my buddy Ray, I was doing all of we would fade the VJ in and out from a green screen, had screaming graphics, because we had a crazy mathematician who would do all of our graphics for us on his Amiga. And what we did was, now the town was only 10,000 people, Mound, Minnesota. birthplace of Tonka Toys. But what we did, we're about 45 minutes west of Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So what we did was we made copies
That's a big demographic.
we made copies of our tapes, and we shopped them to all the other cable access channels around the Minneapolis area. So we had a potential audience of 3 million people, but we didn't know, if that many people. But one of my Facebook friends now, the Swear Engines, who've been on the show, they claim they remember the show. So that was pretty cool. A lot of fun.
Well, it's, what's good, and I think what's educational just about this part of the show anyway, is that what we're imparting to the listeners, I think are probably two really important parts, and that's this. One, you may not be able to do anything, but you can do something if you're willing to work hard at it. And the other thing I would add to that is there's really no age limit, because if you think you're too old to be on camera, then go behind the camera.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, you can do so much. And I think many times, I don't even know how this all would have panned out if I had been on the internet in the beginning. But then again, everybody's on the internet. So it's kind of like, even though everybody, you have all of these things that you can do, everybody has all these things you can do. So it's like, it's amazing. You go out there and there's like, I don't know, I would suspect there are 1 million people out there that are on the internet. It sure looks like that when I go up and just try to access stuff.
There's so many shows. It's going to get to the point where everyone's going to have a show and no one can watch anyone else's show because they have their own show they're doing. That's what it's going to get to, I think.
Well, it's probably already there.
Yeah, probably.
It's like us doing this show,
Now, I put your Timeless Voyager series into the chat. I'm putting it in again. And that's where you can find, I believe, 90 of his shows that he's recently uploaded. He re-edited them, uploaded them.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to one of them today. It was your number 2 interview, I believe, with Al Bielek.
So yes, that was very interesting. Put that up.
Yes, that was very interesting. And he was playing.
Okay, I'll interrupt you for a second and say, I remember that particular interview. And even when I was editing it, I thought, oh yeah, I remember this, because I had gone to a living room lecture in 1990. And the woman who had put the lecture together, Rosella Roberts, wonderful, wonderful. She was like #1 listener of Timeless Voyager Radio. She became a person who just constantly was either giving me money or making up silly things for me to do so I would be able to do my shows. She was, and she was at the time 80.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 78 or 70, but 80 years old.
Wow.
And she was ridiculous. She spent so much time doing all of this stuff. She introduced me to people I would have never met. She was always on the phone calling people, doing this. She'd call into the show. I'd have to have the listener say, hey, if it's Rosella, don't let her through. I'll explain it to her later. Because sometimes she wasn't always that good. But the point is, I had an angel. She was one of the more important ones. And so 1990, she has a living room lecture, and she says, I'm going to have this guy named Al Bielek. I had never heard of him. Never heard of him. As he says, he tells on the story or on that tape, he says, I only became aware of what had happened to me in 1988.
Right, when he saw the movie.
So I didn't have that knowledge before I saw Al. I just knew we were going to I was going to go to a living room lecture. And again, my ego was ridiculous in those days. I thought to myself, I'll go to the lecture, I'll be, I'll ask a few questions and then I'll make some excuse so I can go and then I'll do something else. It was a Sunday afternoon lecture or talk. So I walk in and he's there. I think there's just like one person, him, Rosella, and me, because I got there early. She says, I want to introduce you to Al Bielek. I said, hi, I'm Bruce Stephen Holmes, Timeless Voyager Radio, because that was my handle.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh, you have a radio program? And I said, yes. He says, oh, that's right. He said, you're the guy that Rosella was talking about. And he said, maybe I could be on your show. He's asking me if he could be on my show.
Wow.
And so I said to him, I said, yeah, absolutely, of course. We can do it. When are you available? I said, I do a lot of shows. I said, I can absolutely fit you in, right? so I sit down, and more people are showing up, and more people are coming, and more people are coming, and pretty soon there's no place to sit. I see. Apparently, I was late to the party.
Oh, no.
I didn't know. And then he starts his talk about the Philadelphia experiment, which I had not heard of. I had not seen the movie.
Oh, okay.
Now, I mean, I knew the movie existed. I hadn't seen it because in those days, the only way you could get that movie was either you went to a video store if they had it. But I don't know if you remember from the interview that he said
They pulled it.
They pulled that show, that movie, out of the theaters. I think it was within 3 days or 4 days, whatever it was, and basically, quote unquote, killed the movie.
Yeah.
So he was going out and he was just talking, he was doing living room lectures. Because he thought, well, when this thing becomes, fantastic, which is what it is, everybody will want to hear from me. Well, you know what? It didn't become fantastic. So he had to literally go out there and work at living room by living room.
Wow.
So he starts telling the story, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, is this real?
Yeah.
Did this really happen? I mean, there are a lot of people there from 1943 in those days, a lot of people. And I didn't want to embarrass anybody, but I knew. I said, okay, I'm going to check with this guy and this guy, with this person, this person, this person. None of them had heard of it, right? Because that was the way it was. The Eldridge was, nobody knew about this thing.
Right.
This was like, secret stuff that, people whispered about in the Pentagon, I suppose, or somewhere. So Al comes on my show the first time. There's another one down there.
Yeah.
And goes through the whole thing. And Al had a habit of being on shows where he wouldn't get a lot of time. It was always, like, if you get 15 minutes, that's great. And meanwhile, you're talking to people that have no clue as to whether this is true or not. Most of them don't believe it. And so he had a quote unquote elevator lecture.
Yeah.
That well, whatever. Yeah, it wasn't really an elevator pitch because it was hell of a lot longer than 15 seconds. But anyway, he would just like drone on, and you couldn't even stop him. He just talks through people. Nobody ever asks many questions. So when he came on Timeless Voyager Radio the first time, I let him do what he did, and it was great. It was good. And I talked a little bit and asked some questions, but the next time I said to him, which was probably 2 years later, I said, Al, what I'd like to do is I'd like to have more of a dialogue with you, because I think people would like to feel that they could ask you a question, but I said, I don't want to take time with the calls. I'll be like the listeners. I'll ask you questions that I think people would be interested in. Is that okay with you? Oh yeah, of course, I'd love to do it. So when you're listening to that particular interview, you'll notice that I'm stopping him, going back to areas, and what I'm doing is I feel like I'm trying to help people who have either heard it, but I mean, you can't hear that more than one or two times and kind of your eyes start to glaze over. because it's just too much stuff, because he goes through it, from A to Z, and it's done, which is the way he always gave his lectures. And that's what I wanted to have happen. Now, I have someplace, now I don't know where it is, still I haven't found it. There was another interview that I did on the affiliates. It was a 3-hour show. And it was crazy with all cap letters. It was like the Al Bielek that you never even knew could be this crazy.
Wow.
So if I can ever find that, I don't know whether it's lost or if it's still, I still have about 200 shows to go.
You'll find it. You'll find it.
Well,
The chat here is kind of going nuts.
sure.
And I saw someone, I don't know if I can find it, a while ago. They said, "Oh, I checked his site. He's got a treasure trove of awesome interviews." So feel free to peruse that and share it about, because a lot of the people like Al Bielek now have passed away. So these are very important documentations, and he goes over in that second one. He describes how the people got caught in the bulkheads, and exactly, it makes you understand it better. He had a very eloquent way of speaking, and it says, so I just share that around.
I like what you're saying, because I tend, if there's a difficulty that I have, is I've heard too much of this stuff, and so sometimes when I talk, I don't really know where to begin or where to end. But I like what you're talking about, because you're at least a little bit fresher from that interview. At least you've only heard it maybe once or twice, probably once, which is good.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that you remember that you really want to talk about, please do it. I'd love to.
Yeah, like when he said, when he and his brother were sent back to the Eldridge, I think in 1983, but they had to go back to close the loop. They had to turn the thing, to smash the equipment. And they said they went back up on the deck, and the field started to go down. And then when the field started to go down, some of the people were moving, and it was those people who were moving when the fields were going down that the transition happened, and they got caught. The fifth guy only got his hand caught in. They just cut his hand off and gave him a fake hand, but the other 4 were sadly passed away. But
yeah, it's interesting, because I don't know whether I bought the Philadelphia Experiment or not.
Yeah.
I think I threw it out, actually, but anyway, I had it because I wanted to compare it
sure.
to Al's story.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was A-Bing certain parts, that part of it had always been, it's such a tragedy when you hear it. You get caught in the emotional aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can finally move out of that, you can look at the thing and say, well, this is really interesting, because it shows, or at least it gives, I'm going to use the word impression, gives the impression that this is not some mythical story that was made up.
Mm-hmm.
If it is, it's got a lot of factual information in it that may not have been available then, because we're talking about the molecular structure opening up, right? The atoms and the molecules open up, right? And because there's space between them, that's why it looks like it's gone. And what you're talking about is when they started to close back down and come together. Yeah, I mean, if your molecules are mixing with their molecules, then tough. And that's what happened. And I don't know for a fact that it was only 4 people, but that was a crazy thing anyway.
Yeah.
So if people, I don't even know how a person could get a story, if it's even possible, out of the Navy. If there was even, I don't even know how big the group was who knew what was going on. They're probably all dead. And if they're not all dead, the rest of them that may be alive probably aren't able to even remember how it worked.
Well,
Think of the people that were involved in that thing, Van Neumann and Tesla. I mean, the list is ridiculous. I mean,
Einstein too.
yeah, exactly. And
Um,
it was interesting to see that even though you get that brief idea of Tesla being so riled up about people not understanding what was going to happen, that he tried to shut it down and stop it and couldn't stop it.
right.
But that's the tragedy in my opinion, of that
Well,
whole thing.
oh, that's the military mind. They just want to keep pushing that envelope, no matter what the danger, or what the perils for the average person on board the ship or whatever it is. They just want to plug ahead. But for people who can't believe that something like this could happen, you have to remember that the military industrial complex, that they're kind of like sociopaths or psychopaths or something, and they've got trillions of dollars at their fingertips. So they're gonna come up with lots of stuff that we couldn't fathom, because we don't have trillions of dollars. We're not working with the world's best physicists and scientists, to develop all this stuff. They are. So, that's all you have
Yeah.
to do is realize they're spending all this money. They can buy. I want
So
to
there's go
I want
ahead.
to take a minute to thank Mud Rabbit for this really nice birthday card. See, it says an impossible birthday stunt. Put your tongue on this spot, then sing the happy birthday song without moving it. Okay. Don't feel bad. Nobody at the store could do it either. So
Right.
thank you, Mud Rabbit. I got this in my P.O. box. Thank you very much. That birthday card. Thank you.
So I'm just kind of looking at the list and I'm thinking to myself, there's a couple, well, just from my point of view, a couple things that are really interesting. Um, I really enjoyed number 188, which is Robert A. Monroe. He is an interesting character, and um, I first met him, I guess it was in 90, and he was his background is ridiculous. It'd be better if people listened to it, because his background is just unbelievable. Matter of fact, I edited out 4 minutes of his background because he was just like one of those people that you say, yeah, okay, let's get on with the story.
Mhm.
But anyway, he was the president of Mutual. I believe it's Mutual. A very interesting guy. He was very enamored with sound, and he began experimenting with sound and its effects on the human experience. Oh, and he says in this interview, first of all, Robert A. Monroe is the guy who coined the term OBE, out of body
Here it is.
experience.
Robert Monroe right here.
Yeah. So this is like I think the third interview I did with him.
Okay.
And he talks really in a detailed way. That's what it says, right? Explanation of astral travel and the hemisync program, which they offered there at the Monroe Institute in Virginia. It's for anybody who's interested in the scientific approach to understanding astral travel and understanding. I mean, he was like well into astral travel.
Mhm.
He talks about the different stages. He talks about stuff that he talks about, it sounds like mythos. It sounds like it's just crazy. So I mean, and it's real. That's why what I'm trying to tell everybody.
Yeah.
You don't hear about the out of body experience this way. This is the guy who coined the term. This is the guy who brought it through books that were done either by him or written about him, like Catapult, one of the most famous books on astral travel is written about him and his experiences and what he did and how he brought it to the public.
Wow. That's incredible. So did he teach you how to do it? Did you do some astral traveling?
I used to do astral travel back in the early 70s. I don't do it anymore. I'm an old school guy. I didn't have to use Hemisync to do it, but I'm not saying it's not, I'm just not interested anymore. But I wish, well, okay, so here's the reality of this, just to, as an aside. I had the opportunity in 1970 to meet with Robert A. Monroe
Okay.
at his institute, but I wasn't interested. And the people that I knew really well, who knew him, wanted me to meet with him, but I was too much into my music story and all that stuff in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So we had passed, kind of like ships passing in the night. We kind of like passed each other once in a while. Okay, stop for a second. This episode 177 with Michael Lindemann. Now, Michael tells a great story. He talks about how he had been a strong skeptic and what it was that turned him around. Michael is one of the coolest guys. He actually doesn't do UFO stuff anymore. For the longest period of time, from, well, when I met him in 1990, 89, till I stopped doing the show in 94, he was really well known. He had books and he was on major TV shows, and he was constantly talking. He had an incredible database of stuff that he knew about, people he had interviewed, people he met. And I'm just giving an overview. It's worth listening to. It's a good one.
There's a good one, folks. Check that one out. Number 177, Michael Lindemann. He's got, I'm just going to, kind of rolling through here. There's so many of them. And I'm going to listen to that astral travel one, because I only astral traveled once, but it was enough to let me know that, yeah, it's real.
Robert said this about that. He said, the biggest single issue that they deal with when people are on the different courses is you cannot successfully travel if you have fear about it.
Right.
And it is the thing that stops everybody from having the experience. So they developed a whole course finally to give people the ability, so to speak, to get rid of the fear. This is pretty cool. This 172, Bill Cox.
Yeah.
This is stuff about the pyramids that I never knew. Okay. And he was a trip. The engineering feats, incredible stuff. And he thinks that the Sphinx may be 100,000 years old. He doesn't think that the ever built any stuff.
I think he's right. Yeah,
I do too.
So people, check these out. These are incredible. They're podcasts, so you can listen to them all day long. Just listen to them, go about your daily business, and there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple because I'm looking at the big list right now. This 156 is with David Hatcher Childress.
Oh, okay.
Ch- I've known David for years. I think I first met him in 87 or 88 at a Whole Life Expo. Cool guy. But this book is the one, it's called, it's all about Vamana vehicles. V is in victory, Vamana. And the Vamanas, it's 156. Oh, you're looking for it. Okay.
I'm looking
Uh,
for it. They're further back, the early ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
For the people that are listening, a Vamana aircraft is depicted quite often in Indian literature, Indian meaning India,
Right.
uh, at least 5,000 years ago. And these craft are sophisticated UFOs, but they don't look like UFOs. That's why most people are not interested in it. They
Right.
don't like the idea that it doesn't look like this round craft that everybody thinks is a UFO. Remember, it's unidentified flying object. It's not, a
Right.
particular.
Right.
So the Vamana aircraft, he believes, and he gives a lot of evidence. Apparently, they really understood anti-gravity.
Mhm.
So they could apply that to anything, a building, and of course the proverbial rug. I mean, anything can fly. Anything can fly, and it can go anywhere. So it's very, very incredible, and it lets you know how unsophisticated our
Oh yeah.
aircraft are.
Yeah.
It's amazing, amazing stuff.
Who's a good guy to look at for Vimanas too, does quite a bit of stuff on it, is Praveen Mohan. He's
Mhm.
got a YouTube channel, and he goes to all these Indian temples, and a lot of these temples have carvings of these Vimanas.
Right.
They're kind of shaped like this, and they're kind of square, and yeah, and those temples. I mean, they say the pyramid in Giza is a seventh wonder of the world, but every single one of these Indian temples are like a work of art. They have sculptures all the way up. It's just unbelievable what they were able to do with stone. It's remarkable.
Now here's one that I found to be interesting. I have a lot of shows that I did with Dr. Frankie Stranges,
Okay,
Stranger at the Pentagon.
right. Yeah.
Frank he was a good
paleontologist.
friend of mine. I was never sure whether Frank was a I don't want to disparage his memory. I don't know. I never could make much of him. But anyway, 138 is The Stranger at the Pentagon, which I thought was it's pretty well done. He did a couple, we did shows together actually. Um, I liked Frank as a person. He was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I liked Frank.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm with you on the little bit of hesitancy about his story. I had that too. 38, you said. Here it is. No?
yeah, 138.
Oh, 38. There he is, Mr. Strange's. Great
Yeah,
name, great name. I mean, it's
yeah. I don't know that part.
he
I don't know.
it belongs here because you know what? We're just downrange of strange, where the outrageous is contagious, and the paranormal is the new normal, right?
So 117 and 116. 116 is again Robert A. Monroe. This was a great one. This was a really good interview. And Al Bielek does the full Philadelphia Experiment Montauk Project thing on 117. So that's two of them, 116 and 117. Yeah.
Here's 117, Al Balick, and 16. Oh, that's 119. That's 17. Oh, 116 is this. Oh, 18.
There's when I look at this stuff, I realize, and then of course there's 104, which is Behold the Pale Horse, which is William Bill Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
What number is that?
104, or number 4, 104. It's probably the last one. 17.
Oh,
Click. Oh. Oh. I don't know.
no, 17. Let's see.
104, I'm saying.
107. We're getting close. 106. Oh, on page 18, looks like.
Oh, I didn't even know it went that far.
I don't know. It's got like 18, maybe.
Oh, this is, hey, just stop for a second. Have you ever heard Linda Moulton Howe?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
This is an interesting one because I got to really quiz her and she's good, really
Okay.
good. That's definitely, it's a very interesting one. Up,
So,
up.
number
Oh,
3.
incidentally, that Allagash was really good too. Did you ever listen to that one? Do you know anything about that?
Here's William Cooper. Who was
Oh,
that?
101?
101.
Yeah.
The Allagash abduction case. Yes, that does sound familiar.
I had all four men, including
Oh, they're boating, yes. And that the big fire and the fire was out.
program. They were all on the program together.
2 were twins.
Yep. So
Yeah.
of the five of them, four of them were on the air, and I can't remember the guy's name is
This is the treasure trove that we're talking about here, folks. This is
Albert.
so Bruce.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak for everybody in the audience and even people who will find out about this later. Thank you for bringing these forward. I know you've been working hard to get these, digging through boxes of tapes to find all these things, and we're just really grateful that you did. You put it in a really nice, easy to navigate website here, and so I think it's great what you did here.
Thanks.
And you got William Cooper, man. There's Zachariah Sitchin.
Oh, Sitchin. There's like 3 interviews with Sitchin, and
Okay.
each one of them is just not the same stuff. It's he takes on a lot of different things that he feels that were important and he believes in. So I believe every word he says, but that's me.
I like this Behold a Pale Horse. I think William Cooper was way ahead of his time, and that's probably why he met an early demise. But
well, he suffered from the same disease that I was able to get away from, which I call egomania. I don't mean it, he wasn't a bad guy, but he was definitely, you couldn't stop him. And that's why I don't know who shot him, but I think it was I think there was like an arrest warrant or something like that. I'm not sure if I have the story straight, but I think it was.
I mean, he was like the original red pill guy, giving people red pills. Wow. 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 You've done so much. This is incredible, dude. I mean, I just can't believe it. Oh, and it looks like there's 19 pages. We're going to go right back to the first page. And now this isn't the end either. You keep adding to this, right?
Yeah, well, I told you I'm trying to have 100 up by April Fool's Day, before April Fool's Day.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to happen because I was going to do 2 today and I slacked.
Well, you can count this as one
The
of
day's
them.
not over. Hey, the day's not over,
You can count this as one of them. There you go.
I'll be jacked up after this.
Yeah. Yeah. This is incredible, dude.
Now, 107 is an interesting one because I rarely don't have a guest. In this particular case, I talked it all. It was my little spiel. So I did this thing on sylphs and gnomes and fairies and nymphs and the elementals. And some people like it, and some people.
Okay. What are the elementals? There you go. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty good. Now it's pretty short. It's about 36 minutes long.
Yeah.
But I give a pretty good explanation. The one I'm going to post that's ready to go. Did I tell you this the other day when we were on the phone? I did a talk
Oh
Okay.
yeah, you didn't remember it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on a cassette tape. You
Right.
kept
It
singing it.
was called,
Eternal Life or something.
oh,
Eternal.
thank you. I couldn't even remember the name of it. And I was telling you, and this maybe it'll be interesting for the listeners. Um, I had this tape out. I think it was almost for 4 months it was there. Like while I was going through the tape stuff, every once in a while I'd look and I go, I wonder what that Life Eternal is about. Because it was the way it just said Life Eternal. It said the date, which was 3/20/94. And that's all it said. It didn't say who it was or whether it was an interview or what it was. And as I was telling Aaron yesterday, I guess it was, I would look at it and I would think, I need to play that to find out what it is. And then I would be, I would go off on a tangent and put in another tape and then put that one up and then another one, another one, another one. And then I would look at it and go, hey, I wonder if I ought to look at that tape. And I did that for 4 months. And finally, 2 days ago, there's the 2 days ago, I thought to myself, okay, this has gone far enough. It's time to find out what is on this tape. You know what? I didn't tell you this part. So let me tell you how this all happened.
Okay.
I'm listening to a Timeless Voyager radio interview. Matter of fact, it's the last interview I did. Okay, it's called something about flower essences or something like that. And it's really good, incidentally. It's the first, it would be the most recent one. So it'd be on page one.
On page one. Okay.
Page one, yeah.
Page.
So I'm editing it. Yeah. No,
Dixie Young.
Dixie Young. Yeah, Dixie Young.
Yeah.
Learning about essential oils for health and prosperity. I thought to myself when I saw that thing, I thought, oh, this is going to be so sickening. I'm not even going to listen to it. I'm not going to. And then I thought, okay, once again, ego. I need to remind myself that this is not about me. This is about people that are interested in learning different things that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I had to pull my ego in and say, okay, let me do this. So I'm doing this one and I'm editing it. And all of a sudden I hear next week or something like that, or 2 weeks from now, I'll be at the blah, blah, blah speaking. And I went, what? And I'm thinking to myself, what? I didn't even remember that. And I'll be speaking about life eternal. And I went, life eternal. I look at the tape and I go, this is a tape of me giving a talk. And I thought, oh, this is going to be horrible. I don't know if I have I don't know if I have the ability to listen to it because I get really super critical when I hear myself. So I thought, okay. I finished editing it and I said, okay, I'm going to play it. So I thought, okay, I'm not only just going to play it, I'll record it. So I'll digitize it so that if it's any good, great. If it's no good, I'll throw it out and I won't ever have to deal with it again. So I told Aaron yesterday, I listened to it and I was blown away because number one, I didn't even know that I knew the stuff I'm talking about. This is how far back goes. 1994. Imagine you have a tape of you delivering a talk to a relatively large group of people. Mm-hmm. Seriously, although I mean, I have my regular personality, which is, joking and all that. And I kept thinking to myself, this is not bad. This is not bad. I can't believe it. And I kept listening to it. I'm going, this is not bad. So I don't think it's bad. So I'm going to post it. That the next one is ready to go. I'm going to put it up at the top. It'll be number 191, I think. And it's it's falling out of the regular. I'm not even putting the beginning. There's no like beginning to it, and there's no end to it, which is reality.
Timeless voyage. No beginning, no end.
But as a clue, I go through an explanation, which I remember from Bhagavad Gita, where there's an explanation of the chronology of time according to the Vedic scriptures, which is a lot different from our idea of time. And the clue is that what I hooked this whole thing with in the beginning is I start out by saying infinity. What exactly is infinity? And I basically said infinity, for all purposes, is, and I don't say this, but I'm saying it now, is a little 8 that's laying sideways.
Yeah.
That's all anybody knows it is. Nobody knows what infinity means.
Right.
So let's see if we can figure out how close we can get to infinity by understanding how the Vedic scriptures look at time, not infinity, just time. So that's the hook. And it was quite a learning experience, a relearning experience. Like I said, I didn't even remember that I knew all this stuff. And I really, really enjoyed it. Of course, that's me. Some people may not, but I think it's worth giving it a listen if you have a chance. I just thought I would plug that story.
That's a great, that's a cool
One
story.
story after another.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes, you have to kind of like step back like you did. You hadn't heard that speech. You forgot all about it. So you were looking at it with new eyes and uncritical. You could really have a more of appreciation of that it was actually good without your ego kind of getting in the way because you were so far separated from it. So that's interesting.
Well, and I'm sure that you and everybody else who's listening to this has, if they want, the opportunity to look at old pictures of themselves, to look at things they may have written when they were in high school or in grammar school or college. All of us have those things around. But what I've learned about me, especially, is that I don't want to look at it because I don't know why. Evidently, I think that I know so much now that I didn't know then, or so I don't know. I can't even make up an answer about it. But it was a really good experience for me. I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, background.
Yeah. It's I'm actually pulling up your part of your other self here, and that is your Timeless Voyager Press books. And we
Yeah, I can do a pretty quick segue.
okay.
So from 94 to 97, I basically had all my eggs back in one basket, which was I was producing rap at that point. So I had a lot. I had a couple. Actually, I had 3 or 4 rap artists, and some of them actually did fairly well. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure none of them actually went to anything big, but they were good. So I did that, and then somehow I don't remember exactly what happened, but I went to, oh, you went to the, I'm in the midst. Okay, here's a beautiful example
I'm on the wrong
of,
page.
no, well, yeah, you're stuck on, you know what? That may not be you. That may be the problem already, that I might have done that. I'm working on the site. I might have screwed it up.
Oh,
Uh,
this
if
is
you go, if you go, if you click home again,
okay.
let's just see if that cleans that up.
Oh, you see, this is what happens. I have to do this all the time. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a certificate for this thing. I did not know that. I mean, I did not know that you were getting that.
Well, I have an old operating system, so maybe not everybody gets that.
Oh, no, no, I'm pretty sure. Look, you know what? I'll just check it. We'll find out together. I'll give
There
you
it is. Now you got the picture. Oh, that's
oh,
nice.
okay,
Like
good.
the elongated skull. You got the alien autopsy pic there.
Yeah. Yeah, I made that little thing. My favorite one here is the one you don't really know what it is, but to the left of T and the left of V,
This?
yeah, it looks like it's actually a guy, the chakra body,
Okay.
but it looks so weird because this is supposed to be the crown chakra, and it
Uh-huh.
looks like I'm looking like a little doll. Here's the guy here. And these are all of the energies that are coming out of him.
Okay.
Whatever.
Here and here.
Here's it. If you scroll down a little bit more, this book, This Way to the Stars, what a trip. I was so proud of that book when I did it. And the guy, Paul,
Oh, Kirsch.
yeah, Paul was a hard guy to deal with. And he was a very interesting character because he found out this information. First of all, he can't get the book. So I don't know why I'm talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. He met up with a guy who claimed to have gotten all the information that's in this book from an extraterrestrial who landed in the woods near where he lived. And it's all about propulsion systems that are used by vehicles that do not use what we use, which is the standard firecracker method, where you put a firecracker on the back of two wings and it flies through the air. It is so not advanced. It's crazy. Oh yeah, here's the books. Okay, so coming back to what I was going to say to you. So then in 97, I saw a book that somebody had, one of my friends at a bookstore. And I said, wow, where'd you get that book? And he says, oh, I get it from this woman. She's in Texas. And she makes them herself. And I said, cool. So I looked at the book and I thought to myself, I'm going to make this book. This will be my first book. I will sign this woman up. So I called her up and we had a conversation. I said, look, I have a book publishing company. I can make this book so much better than what you can do. It won't cost you a cent. I'll do it. It's called Holy Bibles and Extraterrestrial Transmission. And the whole book is like a really interesting, she wrote a great book. And you can just look at the stuff that it says, who is God? It's about the Anunnaki, Nibiru, the planet Nibiru, the inhabitants, the Nephilim, for example. She uses all kinds of incredible things from the Greek, from the Vedic scriptures, from the Bible. I mean, it's chock full of stuff. What a great book. And you can get all these books are available on Amazon as Kindles.
Okay. Kindles.
And so you can get them and you
Right
can have them instantly, as you know, you got one.
Oh, yep, I got one.
So
Great. Load up on them.
anyway, so the bottom line is I called her up. I didn't have a book publishing company yet. I was doing one of the things that I do, which I talked about. I had an idea and I got on the phone and started.
There you go.
By the time I was off the phone, the name of the company was Timeless Voyager Press.
That's the way you do it.
I found a standard contract, which was from, I forget who it was, very, very well-known book publishing company.
Mhm.
And so I used their standard contract, sent it out, contracts came back. I did everything. I literally reformatted the entire book. I'd never done that in my life. And put it in book form. In those days, I was with a company called Book Surge or somebody like that.
Okay.
And ordered up 1,000 books, I think it was. I think I put out like $3,000 altogether. And then I got her on Art Bell.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
And Art managed to sell about 500 of those books, and I was actually in the black.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
And that was the beginning of Timeless Voyager Press. Here's a funny story. I say Timeless Voyager Press, but I say it so fast, and I say Timeless Voyager Radio, but I don't ever really, enunciate it all the time. So I was making a pitch to this radio program, radio station, and I said Timeless Voyager, and he goes, "Oh, I thought this was Thomas Voyager." I'm laughing. I started laughing so hard that I couldn't finish my pitch, because I thought to myself, yeah, there's an example of something as simple as, be careful when you make a cold call and you talk to somebody. Make sure you're enunciating these things.
Yeah.
I had gotten so used to saying it. Thomas Voyager Press. I didn't say to him, but I'm saying it doesn't even make any sense. But he's probably thinking none of this makes any sense anyway. So,
yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful who you're talking to. At one time, I pitched a cartoon character to the post office to help with the Zip +4.
Yeah.
And I took this character called Mr. Drip, and he was a mailman. He was shaped like a drip of water. Like, he's kind of fat. I went to the Minneapolis post office, to the postmaster, and he looked exactly like that cartoon.
Of course, that's what everybody's sitting on their ass all day long. Of course, they look like.
He was not interested. So there you go. I know exactly what you're talking about. Wow. So that's the start of it. The Holy Bible is an extraterrestrial transmission. Interesting. Wow.
And Cynthia C.L. Turnage is her name. Cynthia is an interesting character, but she has three other books that I published, all four of her books. One is called Sexual Encounters with Extraterrestrials.
Oh, I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. ETs are on the moon and Mars, which is one of the biggest selling books I've ever had. And War in Heaven, which is the other book that goes with the Holy Bible's extraterrestrial transmission. There's War in Heaven underneath, right there.
Here, yeah.
And I don't know where
those below. No.
Those Below is an interesting. That's an interesting book too.
It says $0 here.
I know. Everything is screwed up on that thing.
That's quite.
I know.
That's quite a sale you got there. I don't think you're going to make much money on it, but don't get that one yet, folks. If you do, send him some real money. Okay.
Here's a great book though, The Bigfoot. This one,
Peter Cotillo?
Yeah, Peter, the same guy that did Contact Beings of Light. This is an incredible book.
One of my favorite books. And
so
thank you again for the connection to have him on. That was great to have him.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's a great interview. I look forward to seeing him again on it.
Me too, yeah.
Okay, so the Bigfoot Files could be one of the most well-written, with the most information on Bigfoot. Like, for example, I don't know if it shows the back of that book or not.
Clicked on it, but my computer's going kind of slow.
So that's okay. Yeah, it's not just your computer. Yeah. So click get your copy here, and that'll take you to the.
See, tricking me into buying books, folks.
Okay, just say send anyway.
Here I go. I just bought 10,000 books, folks.
Well, nothing's going to happen. Taking you to Amazon.
Oh, okay. And then back of the book.
And then
look inside.
Yeah, try look inside. I didn't know they didn't show the back.
Okay.
It's slow.
Yeah. My confuser is very slow.
That's okay.
Bigfoot Files.
So, too bad the picture doesn't look as good as it really is.
Oh, there it is.
So there's a lot of stuff here, but I'm surprised it doesn't show. why don't you try scrolling? Well, there's an example. You've probably seen that stuff. That was how big the foot really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoa, look at that. You know, my brother has size 13 triple D. My mom always said he has a very good understanding.
You should have a, what you need is you need a laugh track
Yeah.
and a symbol. And the
Snake.
symbol
Yeah.
is-
when I'm thinking about it, I pull up a little YouTube with the drum roll on it. So sometimes I do that. I do that. Look at that big foot.
yeah. He's got all of all the stories. I mean, everything
Wow.
you've ever wanted to know about Bigfoot is actually here. And it's people have based a lot of the TV specials that you see on this book.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. So get this book, folks. It's your Bigfoot book. This is the book to get. And Peter Gattil is a great guy. You know, he wrote a great book here, The Beings of Light, Contact with Beings of Light. So the Bigfoot Files is going to be an excellent one too. He's a great writer, a great orator. He's a great guy. So
I'm really disappointed. I'm going to make sure. Are you still going down?
no, it's going up.
Or
I'm all the way down up there.
it stopped, right?
Yep.
Hmm.
You get some more options here. Oh,
What,
these are other companies. We don't want to look at them. That's
is there a way for me? I could send you the copy. I'm going to look. I'm going to look at something real fast because I think it's worth pursuing.
the back of it.
Yeah, because I think it's definitely worth pursuing here.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right. I'm just going to click on out of here then. All right. So go check out his. Oh, you know what I need to do is I need to go back to the home, I think. And where was I? Yeah, go back again. Because I need to put that link into I forgot to put the link into the chat. So, oh, I think I went back too far. Home, and we'll get the, there we are. That should do it. Copy. We'll put that in the old chat. Chatomatic. All right. There's Timeless Voyager Press for you folks. I hope that's it.
Okay, so if I want, I could send you a JPEG.
Sure. I'm just going to stop sharing so then I can go to my.
And the reason I want to do this is because I think that it's one of the more educational things that people are not aware of. And I like people to be aware of stuff.
Okay. All right. And you're going to email that?
I'm just about done.
Okay, good. Wow, it's this has been great so far, Bruce. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. I think it's very cool, and I'm so glad that you got all this stuff out there. I mean, because some of the people you interviewed, some of my listeners, they've listened to every single interview those people have ever given, but
Wow.
now you've got a whole bunch more for them to look at. So it's pretty cool, pretty darn cool. So thanks for doing that. And you're going to start some new shows, right?
Well, my plan is to do it. You know how slow I've been about putting this into action.
Well, I think you've been hitting it pretty good. I mean, you got all these shows of 90 shows. That's a lot of work, folks, to put 90 shows up.
So you could check your mail, see if you got
Okay.
it.
All right. Refresh it here. Aha, Bigfoot. Okay.
So when you get that ready to go, let me know.
All right. So, oh, is this the whole book or just the back of it?
This is the
Just,
back of the book, just the back
okay.
of the
I'm going to
book.
put it onto my desktop so I can open it up then. All right. I'm going to go over here. I hope everyone's doing fine in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here, liking and sharing and keeping the chat all comfy. Thank you to the mods. We got the best mods in the business. And it looks like a real comfy chat today. And why am I not seeing my thing isn't coming up? I think I have too many things open. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna do this way because I got it up here. I just can't get it. I can get rid of this. That should do something. And now, all right, here we go. Almost there. Here we go. There it is. So here's.
Okay. So let me explain something. Most people do not understand how big Bigfoot actually is because, number one, no one wants you to know. I know this sounds silly, but here's your 6-foot man in red. You'll need to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, I have to adjust this a little bit here. Okay. That should do it.
Okay, so you've got the 7-foot Bigfoot, which is the one everybody always shows.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that they always show that one is because if you go across to the 14-foot version, that is actually how big a Bigfoot really is.
Wow.
And most people are not ready for that.
Right.
It's too far away from what we think we are.
Yeah.
We're willing to accept a Bigfoot being 7 feet.
Sure.
That's big enough.
Yeah.
10 feet, that's not going to happen, they think. 12 feet, that's ridiculous. And of course, 14 feet is impossible. I assure you that if ever one of them appears, it will be 14 feet because that's the real size of almost all of them. A
Wow.
seven, a 7-footer might be a young one or something, but
Hmm.
that's the 14-footers is basically how big they are.
Hmm. Wow.
It's explained fairly well in the book. One of the biggest problems that you have with Bigfoot is that, and this is according to Peter, because I did not know this till I did the book. Usually, before there is a Bigfoot sighting, a real Bigfoot sighting, it sounds silly, doesn't it? Before that happens, there's usually a UFO sighting.
Right. Yes. Yes, that's true.
And one of the things that everybody always says is, if Bigfoot really exists, where are the skeletons? The answer is Bigfoot, number one, doesn't live here. He's not going to die here that we know of. Now, if a skeleton is found, I'll be very happy. I don't think you're ever going to find a Bigfoot skeleton.
Well, I have something to say about that.
Okay, good.
Because people say that a lot. Oh, can't find them. They must not exist. Well, have you ever come across a bear carcass in the woods? Probably not, but there are bears. So there you go. If we can't even find bears, then how do we expect to find Bigfoot carcasses, right?
Yeah, and there's an example. I think there are bears that are 10 feet.
Sure.
So it's not like it's unheard of.
Right. We don't
So,
find their carcasses.
right.
We don't even come across them very often. They're pretty,
So what people want Bigfoot to be is a hominid. I think that's the correct term.
mhm,
Um,
primate for sure.
that is somehow historical.
Mhm.
They don't want it to be the same intelligence as a human being. They certainly don't want it to have more intelligence than a human being. That's because human beings, and I'm going to use this word because I want to use it, pretend to be the top of the food chain.
Right.
Now, I'm not suggesting that Bigfoot eats human beings, but I am suggesting that there are things that eat human beings.
Sharks.
I'm sure Corey has talked about that stuff anyway. I don't have to. But I'm going to say this.
Reptilian.
We're not the top of the food chain.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that there's proof of that. But one of these days, when you least expect it, there's going to be proof of that.
Mhm.
I don't want to be around to see it. But I assure you that we're not the top of the food chain. That's one of the reasons why, when you see, or at least I believe that's one of the reasons why I put that there. I made that chart. I made that chart for a reason. When I had seen this original chart that was broken up, I saw pictures of different ones. And I said, wait a minute, Peter, why doesn't anybody ever see this chart? This is a very important chart because if you have never seen this chart, you don't even realize that Bigfoot is really big. Now, the only place that you're ever going to see this is in cartoons, where they actually portray Bigfoot as being big.
Right.
Kids, I guess, accept it. Parents apparently don't.
Like Harry and the Henderson.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I would make a comment on that. It's a great book. I think it's one of the better books available, and it's got lots and lots of information, including we did an appendix at the end. I forget how many pages it is, but we had hundreds of firsthand experiences of people from all over the United States that had been written about, newspaper articles, interviews from different sources. So that alone, that appendix is really incredible too. So I'm just not trying to sell the book, but I should.
Well, I bet you probably did sell a couple of them just now because
It's a good book. It's a good book.
Very good book.
And you, if I'd had, well, we knew this it was going to be quick because we're trying to figure out how much I could do to make this interview more than just me talking. And you did a great job getting me back on track by bringing up the shows, the podcasts, because that was important part, and bringing up
Books.
the books too, because it's funny. I you can see that I compartmentalized parts of my life because you can see the evidence of it. I don't even listen to my music, but every once in a while I'll get fan mail or whatever, and I think to myself, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, my other life. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had a guy, Tony. I won't say Tony's last name. Tony lived in New Jersey, where I lived when we were kids, and Tony was an incredible drummer, and he was in my first band. we were together for maybe uh, 5 years. God, that's a long time when you're in high school.
Yeah.
So Tony, for no apparent reason, called me on the phone. No, he texted me. He texted me on my phone about a month ago.
Oh.
Hey, Bruce, I don't know if you remember me. It's Tony, blah, blah, blah. I was the drummer in your band. Cool talking to you. With the, like, I'm married. Blah, blah, blah. I picked it up. I looked at it. I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. I'm not even going to waste my time texting back. I immediately called him back. And we talked for probably a couple of hours. What was interesting about it was, as we're wrapping up the phone call, he says, oh, by the way, the reason that I got in touch with you, because I found a demo that we did in 1963. Oh, no. Yeah, either 63 or 64.
Wow.
He said, it's an album size, and he said it's got about 9 songs on it. And my first thought was, this is how I've at least grown. Thank goodness. It only took me 75 years to get here. He says, would you like me to send it to you? My first reaction was, don't waste your time. It probably doesn't work. But I didn't say it. I bit my tongue. And I said, yeah, if you want to send it, gee, that'd be great. I appreciate it. So I'm still waiting for it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll try it. And if I can digitize it, I will.
It's cool. Wow, that's awesome. Might be a hit. Maybe.
Well, whether it's a hit or not is not so important to me. What's important is it's another little capsule of me and who I was and who I am, all of these little personalities coming together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure look, I'm looking at you, and what I'm seeing is all of your, not all of it, but a lot of your talent as far as drawing, painting. It's all part of you, and you're used to it, but others aren't. That's all.
Right. Yeah. And, I think you're illustrating very well how someone can be multiple different things. They don't have to be just one thing. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, still in school, and I thought, well, by 12th grade, I have to figure out what I want to be. And at the time I was playing violin, and I wanted to play guitar and drums and art. And I thought, well, I better stick with art. So I gave up the instruments and went with art. So, but you don't have to. You can do it all. Just like Bruce here. You can do it all.
Oh, it's a good thing I don't tell you about all the other things I did.
Yeah, it's amazing when you
Tested for it.
you look in an old box or something, or an old file, and you go, "Wow, I did all that."
Exactly.
This is one of the Dorothy Izat pictures, of course, that I think is fabulous. From Contact with Beings of Light, another one of your amazing books that I talk about quite a bit. I just think these light pictures are so bizarre and interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, they affect you. What's nice about them, or at least how I look at them, they're like looking at art,
Oh yeah.
and you derive something from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people are looking for a particular, they want to hear something about it. What did Dorothy say about this? What does Peter say about this? But you can look at it and say to yourself, what is this?
Yeah. What she said was, she said, "Who are you?" And then
Oh,
this.
I know, yeah, and that's the signature, I know. But I'm just saying, my issue with it is, okay, but I look at it as, why does it look like that?
Mhm.
No, that's the wrong question. How does that affect me on the emotional, spiritual? You see, that's how I look at these pictures that way.
Yeah.
What is that picture saying to me? I mean, I understand that it was a frame. I understand all the mechanics of it. Hell, I was the one that took them apart and, fixed them so they could be published. But they're also they're also standalone.
Mhm.
I don't know. Oh, I know what I feel. I don't even know if I know what I'm feeling, but I feel something when I look at them.
Yeah.
It's not just awe. It's like there's also something underneath that, something that I feel underneath that.
Right.
On the book or the idea, the concept, what I'm doing right now is, you remember Terry was on there
Mhm.
with, so Terry and I have been talking about this. We're trying to come up with something. He evidently has about, I don't know how many, but he has a number of videos
Mhm.
that apparently Dorothy had given him. And I don't know if you know this or not. And so we're going to come up with something. It may be another book, or
Awesome.
or it may be a video. I'm not sure what we're going to do,
That'd be great.
but we are going to do something because, I mean, the reason I did it in the beginning, as you well know, no one wanted this book. Nobody was interested.
Right.
I was like, Peter's last hope. He didn't contact me. He hired somebody who was out shot trying to get a publisher. And
Wow.
she had been through, I don't know, 50 or 60 other people who didn't want to do it either. So um,
So you were
I'm glad I got a chance to do
the short wave radio station that
it. Exactly. That's been my student. That's my monogram, the guy who did the short wave. When
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
no.
If anything, again, I come back to this. If anything, I just remind people, be aware of the opportunity. Be aware of the opportunity. And then if you can, act on it. Don't think it through. Like, this is a common, or at least this was common for me. I would have a flash of an opportunity. Then I would think about it. I would begin to move through my way of thinking of the consequences, perhaps, whatever it was, where it would end up. And then I would say to myself, I don't want to do it. It's too much energy. So I never gave it a chance, just like I always give this example. You hold a seed in your hand. Now, do you know for sure what that's going to look like? Absolutely not. But you pretend that you do. And you decide, how much work do I want to put into making this seed come to fruition? And the answer is, you should be doing it, not thinking about it, and
Right.
not getting involved in what you think the consequences are going to be. Will I have to cut the tree down? Will it get hit by lightning? Will something, you know what I mean? All the things that can possibly happen.
Yeah.
Just taking the seed, putting it in the ground, and nurturing it as an active participant in reality, as opposed to a passive non-participant.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll get off that one.
So this is a picture it's from Dorothy's work. It's a single frame again from her home movie. And this,
It's
um,
8 mil. It's Super 8.
yeah, the way I see this is right here. This is a woman in a white dress. And over here are children. And the way I remember this story was that Dorothy, in her other one of her other lives during the Atlantean times,
Mhm.
she saved a bunch of children by bringing them into a tunnel in Italy, and people still talk about it there from antiquity. So that might be what this is, like a painting that they painted with light to kind of remind her of her previous life.
Or
Very,
it could be a snapshot that was not interpreted real well at the time of our meaning the time, the history that we have of photography.
right.
Perhaps if that was done now, that might have been much clearer. It may have been a completely different photograph if it was possible.
I think it's clear enough. I really,
No, no, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that whatever it is, Dorothy says that's what it is. So who
yeah.
can argue with that?
And
I look at it and I don't know what it is for sure.
uh
I know that it's something.
it looks like an adult woman.
No, I
Which
mean, I know Dorothy's
to me,
story.
that's what it looks like. And maybe it's something, maybe not only something in the past, but something in our future, like we need to protect our children from harm. Maybe that's the message here too. That could very well be.
But I think what's so important about Dorothy's work is that she did it.
Yeah.
You can see that photograph. You may not like it, believe it, care about it, whatever, but it exists because of Dorothy's hard work and her active participation without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah.
When we met, when I was up there visiting her in Vancouver,
Wow.
well, she wasn't in Vancouver, she lived outside of Vancouver, but when I was visiting her, what I enjoyed about being with Dorothy more than anything else was she was a very simple, ordinary person who, using her camera, not getting involved in people saying, oh, it's a Super 8, why do we have such a toy? It's not going to work. Or taking a photograph with a camera, simple camera. What is that thing? It's stupid. All of these things she did because she was an active participant in the flow of life. And that's, this is you hear this thread tonight. It's because I'm on this thread now. And I'm on that thread because I got it from listening to what I was talking about in that Life Eternal talk. Being an active participant, you don't have to be an active participant. It doesn't mean that you're good or bad. It's just that you have the opportunity all of the time to be active. So, does it mean it's important? No, does not mean it's important. It just means that you are aware and active in your awareness, not aware but daydreaming or having no intent to do anything in particular. I think that is kind of like, I think that would be a waste of what is available. But I'm being a little bit judgmental, which is probably not proper. But I'm just saying that that's what I appreciated about Dorothy. And when I met her, I was probably 50.
Okay.
I'm going to guess. This would have been in 2000, 2002, I think. So I probably was 55. And Dorothy was probably, I could do the math if I had the book in front of me, but she was probably in her 70s or 80s at that point.
Yeah.
she was very, very spry and full of life. And if there's anything that can take life away from someone, it is not how old this coat is that we're wearing. It's how much you use it, how much you are intent on something, how much you are aware. Because if you're not aware, if you're just daydreaming, if you're just watching television passively, I started to have an argument with this kid one time about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, about video games. And I started to like develop my story, and I stopped and I said, hey, you know what? At least you're actually actively involved in a game. You're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a step way above sitting passively and having someone tell you what to think, like if you're watching the news.
Right.
Sometimes, I said to him, I said, it's funny, but I said, people who are older, who just watch the news, they think they're doing something, but in actuality, they're not. They're not doing anything.
Right.
They're just being fed. That's it.
Vegetating.
So I'm really strong on this. Next week, I'll probably have forgotten about it. Well, I will not have forgotten about the concept, but I might not be talking about it. Yeah, this is a great picture of Hynek too, with her when she was younger. I don't know how old she was in that picture.
In the 70s.
This picture of her? No. She's probably...
No, in the 70s it was taken.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say she's probably about 35 or 40 at the most.
Sure, yeah. She's very young there. But yeah, this shows, for the people watching, this is the Super 8 film strip here, the film. Here's the first frame, single dot. Second frame, crazy light phenomena. Third frame, nothing. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to comment. The interesting thing is, I don't know what the drop frame per second is for 8mm Super 8. I mean, I don't know what it is.
0.055.
Yeah, basically it's telling you there.
Right.
So it's 5/100ths of a second, then 11/100ths of a second, and then 16/100ths of a second.
It's like 18 frames per second, I think. So,
well, anyway, the point is that there's no way that you can go from frame 1 to frame 2 without a transition, unless this was happening so fast.
right.
I'm talking about whatever the thing was that was going on.
Right.
So it's operating faster than the eye can see, faster than the camera can see.
Right.
Because when you get to frame 3, there isn't even a hint that there was any light in it.
Nope. Yeah. Oh, Bruce?
That was me. No, that's all right.
Okay.
Somebody, a text came through, and I don't know how to turn it off on this particular machine.
All right.
Yeah. Bruce, are you okay? Hopefully it wasn't anything to do with my health. No, it wasn't.
Could have been the FBI guys keeping an eye on you still.
They're long gone, I hope.
But here's a picture of some extraterrestrials that were.
Yes, I was going to comment on that.
Because
you know where that shows up and where there's an actual rendering in the book, right?
Yeah.
Because Lucy did a rendering of the picture,
right,
of those guys.
And you know who gave me this book? Mud Rabbit. She ordered this book and gave it to me. So she's talking about it so often. She went and did that. So thank you so much, Mud Rabbit. You rock.
And thank you, Mud Rabbit, for actually getting that book before I'd even knew Aaron. So you and I were connected before you knew Aaron.
Yeah. And I was going to talk about it, and I saw this warning in the front. Oh, this is copywritten. You better not, blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, I better call this guy. And I called him up thinking, I'm going to get this gruff guy. And here's this super nice guy who's my arch enemy in some books, but pretty friendly guy.
Uh,
But yeah, here's that page right there, that picture of
right.
Heimlich remover. Oh, here it is. Here's the sketch I think you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's one of them. I think there's another one. I think it comes off better from the
Oh, this one.
Kindle. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, let me get the thing. We'll get the full screen here. The full screen effect.
Yeah, Lucy West, who did a lot of the work, the drawings, did that one.
And then, just throughout the book, and there's a classic picture of a disc all lit up. And of course, it's fuzzy because it's 8mm. Here's an interesting one. A bright light in the sky when it suddenly vanished, a dazzling burst and developed, showed apparently a landscape.
I like that one in color.
Yeah, color. It looks like a landscape, like with water in the distance, and it's just gorgeous. Oh, here's a crazy light. I think I have this in color too. There's some beautiful colors in that one as well. Yeah, so get this book, friends. Oh, here's some saucer pictures for you saucer people. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. Look at that. Yeah, it's great stuff. Lots of pictures. And this is a good one now. The color version of this, which you can find on the Kindle when you order the Kindle. So get the Kindle one too. That's a small ship going towards the round big ship. So it's a scout ship going up towards the big ship. Very fascinating. Yeah, and it's beautifully written by Peter Gattila. And if you want to see Peter Gattila, now Bruce is not connected to this. This is a movie made by Frank Longo called Capturing a Light, but it's about Dorothy Izat, and Peter Gattila is in it. And it's quite something. I highly recommend it. Contact with Capturing the Light, 30,000 feet of proof. She had 30,000 feet of footage inside the craft. There's pictures inside the craft, everything. Amazing stuff.
Dorothy had quite a lot of experiences, I mean,
yeah.
Most people, it comes down to, if you have this ice cream sundae every day that nobody's ever tasted, you can talk about it till you're blue, and you will not have advanced anyone. If one of those people was able to taste it, they would have an experience that they wouldn't be able to stop talking about. So the thing is, when people hear that somebody's been on a craft, they're just going to say, oh, and then it's just, what's your willing suspension of disbelief? How far can you take it?
Nope. Truth is stranger than fiction. They always say that, and it's always true. That's what I've always found. Truth is far, far freakier than fiction. Yes. Yeah, very, very interesting. And the whole Dorothy case is it's magical. And like you said, when you look at those pictures, it gives you a feeling, an emotional feeling. So here's a picture of the hands of an alien on board the craft on what looks like some kind of control panel. And let me get this up here. I love this picture, and this is a color version. I think this is in the book as well. So here you can see there's hands. Looks like they have kind of short fingers, unless their fingers are bent, possibly. And there's some kind of thing. He's putting his hand in here, like some kind of receptacle for your fingers. And I don't know what this is. It looks like a million little balls of light, like some of these light entities or something, whatever they are. I don't know.
Yeah, I never looked at it that closely, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, there's little teeny
It's
dots.
like beads.
Yeah, it's bizarre. The whole thing is, it's just,
Well, again, like I said, it's how far can you stretch your willing suspension of disbelief? You know, like how far can you go with it?
just downrange of strange, where the outrageous is contagious and the paranormal is the new normal. That's what I think. That's how I think about it. We'll take out all the color. The color adds so much on this. It looks like whatever kind of aliens these are, they were doing a little bit of tanning on Earth, perhaps. Maybe they got some copper tone. So very dark skin tone color. Very interesting. And I always was hoping that we could crack into some of her other footage that no one had ever seen. Because 30,000 feet, that's a lot. That's a lot of footage.
Well, so you know, like I told you, Terry and I are, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we're still in the talking stages of trying to figure out what we're going to try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's there's a plan, but not much of a plan yet. I know what I would like to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see where it takes us. Maybe we can put something together that is, I don't know if it can ever be as spectacular as the original book, but it could actually add more to it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the footage. Terry claims that he has, so um, there we are.
He shared a lot of pictures he's taken himself too. So maybe he should write a book about the stuff he's seen, because he listened to Dorothy and he was doing the same kind of protocol. So, there's that possibility too. Now here's a picture from the book of the inside of the craft of a guardrail, which I think is a fascinating picture. It's not very clear, but this is on board an alien spacecraft, folks. This is on a UFO inside. Yes, she was inside and they allowed her to film. And we only have a couple of frames from her experiences on board these craft. It's just so fascinating. She must have been a very high-placed individual spiritually for them to show her all this stuff. Just wonderful. I'm going to add a little contrast to this. Maybe fuzz it out a bit. Yeah, very interesting. It looks like the chat's loving it too. Healing frequencies of higher vibration. I like that name. Welcome to the program. Awesome. Well, Steve, we've been at this for quite a while. Do you think we should probably put a cap on this one? What do you think?
Every once in a while, someone calls me Steve, and I think to myself, yeah, I remember that. That's right. You know, I don't usually react to it, but it's just like, I know what you're saying. I think you're cutting it at the right time.
Okay.
I do appreciate you giving me a buzz and allowing me to participate. I'm glad I had a chance to do this. And of course, I always enjoy watching. I don't always hit the chat. Matter of fact, I rarely hit the chat. I wasn't even on the chat tonight. I don't even know. I guess I had the chat off or something. Or maybe you put me off of the chat.
No, I don't have any control of that, but I have not been able to pay much attention to the chat either, and I apologize because we got such a wonderful chat. But you know, I just want to focus on the and later when I'm going through, I'll read the chat and go, oh, I
Right.
oh,
I hope somebody didn't ask for something that we could have answered and didn't know they asked.
right, right. I apologize profusely for that, but um, I just think it's great to have you on as a guest. I want to have you back again. You know, maybe you and Terry could come on and we could talk, you know, hash out what it could be even in real time and figure out things.
Well, it's not easy to locate that guy, I'll tell you that. But bottom line is, I think that I think that by, or let's put this, I hope that by the summer, he and I have gotten something organized, because I like to act on things as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because things take a long time to develop, as you well know.
Yes. And
All right, well, Aaron, thank you very much. I'm
you're
not
welcome.
going to stop the thank yous now. I love listening to your friends, all of the chat people. I hope you'll let me know if there was anything that got asked that we missed, and maybe I can do it. Maybe I can answer the question if need be. Need be.
Let's see. I'm giving a little bit of a awesome show tonight, Mud Rabbit. Thank you, Steven. Everyone's calling you Steven now. I'm sorry about that. I was kind of like looking at that today. I thought, oh, he puts his middle name in. I better mention that.
That's
So
it's okay. It's
thank you.
fine.
Love you guys. That's from Healing Frequencies of Higher Vibrations. Says thank you, love you guys, love you, chat. Yeah. Oh, it's been perfect. Yeah, you've been a wonderful guest, and you know what? We're all timeless voyagers, aren't we? Because we have this infinite soul that lives forever. It's an everlasting now, and that's our timeless voyage. And we're in these bodies on this planet, interacting, like you said, and bringing knowledge and information to people, and help try to figure this crazy thing out. Because we're all stuck on this planet. We might as well make the best of it and keep looking towards the future. And speaking of the future, we're looking forward to your new shows. Not only his old archive shows that he keeps adding, but his new shows, which I know are going to be great. Watch for great things
Got to
coming.
get it together. I got to get it together. You know, it's an opportunity. I can't let it slip away. Thank
That's
you.
right. And there's always shortwave if this doesn't work.
That's right. And that will probably be around long after the internet is gone.
Probably. All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody in the chat. Keep that camera trained to the sky so you can take a picture of that UFO so you can come on to the Truth Quest and talk about it. Until then, peace in.